Hey again, everybody. Hey, Chris. I wasn't sure if Ryan was saying hey, but that was from before. Hey, Sinistella. So we are back. It is about 12:30, and remember that at 2 p.m., so 90 minutes from now, there's going to be the interview with Sharon. I was mentioning this in the morning, but I need to make sure that I'm kind of timing my breaks for that. So I think we'll take a break at 1:45. Yeah, I think that should put us there in time, or 150 even might be fine. Anyway, something like that. So what we're going to do until then is going to be the game dev stuff from earlier. Or 2 this afternoon, yeah. So I'll edit this command. Oh, I already have it down here. At a stream uptime of about 90 minutes. Yeah, there we go. Can I quickly finish Skeleseller before the interview? Yep. Get right on that. Hey, Darkstorm. Okay, so where I left off was cleaning up the commit, making sure that you can't start a battle if your party is in battle already. We should probably save that for post commit. Yeah, probably. So let's take a look. So we changed around the end battle screen a little bit. This stuff is fine. This is adding in a feature to stop hover effects. It's to save off the adventurers. Then we had the end battle screen itself. Oh, this just didn't exist before now. Okay, so add end battle screen. This still isn't finished, but it's a start. Yeah, the main thing I want to get rid of is the hacky change that I made. We also need to make a function out of that. So yeah, I think everything we need to change is an instances manager. Yep. Well, in the call to hack. So highlight on hover, instance not to use. Yeah. My message failed to send. What? It's weird. I wonder how many other people have gotten that. They're like a Twitch status page. It says everything's operational. Yeah, no incidents. So I don't know. So the first thing I want to do is to be able to find the slot in which an instance goes. I feel like we should just store it in instance now. Yeah. I feel like we've done enough to try to kind of get around this. So public int instance or slot number. Get private set. Actually, it's set on init, I guess. Do we have an init? We do. Yeah, okay. So I'll set this here. Int slot number. Then just store this off. Init only property. Oh, fine. Let's make it a private setter. Then when you initialize an instance, we'll pass in the slot number that you had, which is that slot. If slot is null, return. Wonder why it doesn't know. We could just have this be -1. Yeah, anyway, slot.value is fine. Or just converting it to an int. I guess either way works. I'm gonna purge that message. Only because I didn't even see what the message is, but it's a link in their very first chat. If you're an actual person, feel free to still chat here. I only purged you. I didn't ban you. Let's see. So yeah, we're going to store this in there, which means we no longer need to fetch the instance slot anymore. So where do we do that? Here. Yeah, we don't need this anymore. We can just do instance dot slot number. Then there's no way for this to be null. So we delete all of that. Look at how much cleaner that is. Although that should have been a function anyway. What else do we have here? We don't need this anymore. Get free instance slot. This is technically still needed. Clear slot is not needed anymore though. This can just be instance dot slot number. What? We just set this to null. Yeah. Happy with that. This is another one of these things we don't need. Get index of instance. This is just going to be instance dot slot number. Cannot convert from int to instance. Oh, this takes in an instance? Okay, fine. Whatever. We apparently needed that index. Yeah, fine. Did I change clear slot just now? I don't know why it's saying that the types don't match. No, it always took an instance. What did I just have here? Oh, yeah, okay. I just misread. Okay. Maybe we call this slot number. Any other problems that are here? Get free instance slot, set, this. Wait, no, this is not a problem. Yeah, this is not a problem. I think that's it then. Do we ever use the number 3 anywhere? We don't. Instance slots dot length anywhere? Just for this? Yeah, okay, I think that's fine. Test. Type 1 if the test succeeded. Okay, cool. Just making sure. Because when it said your message failed to send, and then I timed someone out for 1 second, and then, yeah, nothing happened. I estranged. Thank you for complying. Okay, the next thing we need to do is fix up this hack thing. Problem is, we're doing this just to be able to get the player abilities. The instances manager could just have the player abilities in it, but then we need to make sure the references always stay the same. So create instance saves this, but we need to get an updated reference. So I guess we really only have a couple of options here. Option number 1 would be call, like, write a signal out to the town that we want to start an instance. Option number 2 would be store the player abilities somewhere and hope that the reference hasn't been updated. Yeah. Hey, Rami. I think I posted on Discord as well. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I did. And Casey wants a ping when it's ready, so I will have to do that. Let's just put it in the prep thing. Hey, ping people on Discord. Ping people on Discord to alert them. Yeah. Okay. So what do I want to do? I feel like writing a signal is going to be like 14 lines of code. But I feel like it's the technically proper way of doing things. Where do we recreate this here? So what would we be doing instead? We'd have a signal that takes in all of these things for create instance. Well, the ID, I guess just the instance. And, oh, I guess the slot number is not needed anymore either, is it? Yeah, so we could just do something like repeat instance battle and pass in all of this stuff. Maybe a signal is better because we're going to need to check if you're in battle anyway. Hey, V1. I'm on fire again? I don't know if I'm on fire. I'm just making some progress. Yeah, I think I'm going to go change this. This would be like on request repeat battle. And it's going to pass in an instance. And then we need to do this here. So on request repeat battle instance. And then all this needs to be somewhere else. Oh boy. I guess we can check to see if the slot number is already in use when we call create instance. But what's going to clean up the end screen? We just add this. We probably need a reference to it. I got a new corn? No, I'm using the same corn that I've always had. I have a case for it now. Maybe that's what you're commenting on? Yeah, unfortunately I don't have any like great pictures I took of the case. But yeah, originally it was just, let me move this, yeah. Originally it was just sitting right on my desk. So now I finally have a case. But yeah, I like it. All right. So yeah, I think create instance can just do this stuff. Let's go take a look. If it's equal to 1, then set the next one visible. Otherwise, instance slot to use. Clear the slot. This just sets it to null. And if there was an instance there, then free it. I guess if we're ever going to clear a slot, the first thing we need to do is, yeah, free it. If this is not equal to null, then this dot queue free. Null check can be simplified, sure. All right, I like that. So now we can just call this, but this is on the current slot that might exist. And this assumes that it's not null. If instance equals null, then just return. And now make sure this can be null. All right. So we're going to say instance slots, instance slot to use. Delete that, delete that. All right, we're getting there. We need to also clear off the end screen. If only the end screen were part of the instance, this wouldn't be a problem. Why can't we do that? Because this is a control that we need, yeah. This should have been in its own class. And then we could have stored this stuff off correctly. But now we're going to have an end screen for each instance. All right, I'm going to do something that I'm not fond of here. Public end battle screen equals null. This may not exist even. Should not follow a property. Yeah, I guess just like that. Now I want to set this in the instance itself. And then up here, when we clear the slot, I guess if we were going to dispose of this, we also need to dispose of the end battle screen. So I guess we could do a protected override. Wait, how will this work? This is undisposed, so this won't work necessarily. Oh, man. Yeah. Hey, War Eagle. Better pleasant coders than peasant coders. How are you doing today? Or how did you do today? Your day's mostly over. End screen. I guess we're going to save this off somewhere else. Right before we go to free it. Not a big fan of this. Yeah. Instance slot number. We have the instance. What am I doing here? This doesn't need to work this way. Yeah, we could just do instance IQ free here. And then instance dot end battle screen dot queue free. That's possibly null reference, yeah. Kind of okay. Did some hobby project for a stream and they liked it. Always a good result. Wait, like stream on Twitch? Because that sounds very interesting, and I didn't know you streamed, if that was the case. Or was it like stream for work? I probably messed up everything here. Also, I didn't even finish writing what I was supposed to be doing. Oh man, instances manager. Yeah, but not for the stream or for the community. I see. That's cool. What's the project? I think it's really nice when there's a community for something and that gives you momentum, either in terms of sales or viewers or just even motivation. So there's one other thing we need to do here. Instances manager on request repeat battle. And that's where all the code that we currently have over here is going to need to change. Yeah, just like we have jump royale. Exactly. The on request repeat battle will say on request repeat battle. Go implement this function. Now we have a place to copy paste this. So get the slot number, clear that slot. This is not going to be a problem anymore. We don't need to do that. We just need to pass in the player abilities. And we can pass in the instance slot number. And this is for instances manager. All right, now I can delete the hack ability. And then get rid of all of this. Yeah. Okay, I think we're good. Let's try it. Small SVG manipulator. We can manipulate the colors and add items, add speech bubbles and such. Nothing fancy. Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, I had to modify an SVG by hand once. That wasn't fun. That was the only time I'd ever done it too. So what we're hoping happens is this gets cleaned up correctly. It looks like it did. We still have that bug, but that's okay. This just breaks. That's not a problem. I don't care about that right now. Well, it is a problem, but I don't care about it. Okay, now let's look through and make sure all the changes make sense. Okay. That's good. That's good. Yep, good so far. Good. Good. This is just weird. I don't like this. The end battle screen associated with this instance. Unfortunately, it's not. Yeah, it's not in the, well, it doesn't appear. It won't appear in the scene tree under this instance, under this node. So it's a bit unusual that we have a reference to it here. Yeah. Not a big fan of that. Then we can fetch the battle systems adventurers. I like that part. That looks fine. Number of stages, current stage. Yep, this is a debug function anyway. Set systems pause, looks good. Clear slot. I should probably have tested this thing. Where'd my nav mesh go? Yeah, that button works, but we don't have any other adventurers. But if I click start battle now, and then go here. Yep. Yeah, it's working. And there are no errors, right? Yeah, no. Do I play games myself? I do. Excuse me. I have a Wednesday game night where we're playing the finals. I have a phone game I've been playing way too much of called Nonogram's Katana. It's just Picross, but Yeah, it's very addictive. They've got this whole like guild system. I would only recommend this on Android. On everything else, it's just a nanograms game. And what else have I been playing? Pikmin 4. Those are the 3 games I think I've been playing lately. Yeah. Do I like MMORPGs? I would say I like them, but I don't ever want to play them again, basically. I just think MMOs are essentially designed to suck you in, and I'm very susceptible to that. So I never tried Final Fantasy 14 or Elder Scrolls Online. The only MMO I kind of play occasionally is World of Warcraft, and it's just the classic versions. And I usually run out of interest in a couple months. Remember those paper dolls from 20 years ago, or you can cut out clothes and accessories? It's kind of that. Yeah. I think it sounds very useful. I mean, especially if there's a community around it, it means people must be enjoying it. But yeah, honestly, I probably should be playing more games just to experience what they are and see how they do things. And it's kind of an excuse to do research on the job while having fun. But yeah, I feel like I'm a little bit, hang on a second, let me just start coughing. Man. Okay. I feel like I'm a little bit backwards in how I consume and produce things. Like I really like consuming gaming content on YouTube, and I hate producing it. And I like producing coding content, and I hate consuming it. And it makes me not want to kind of cross those paths and see, okay, what is it like to produce this? What is it like to consume this other thing? Hey, Matt. So yeah, I was actually thinking of streaming the Nanograms game at one point, just as like a day off kind of stream. Not because I think people would want to watch, but I'd force you to. You'd have to watch. There would be no looking away. Actually, if we're gonna init, I guess we don't do it that way. We could have the end screen associate itself in here. Yeah, it's just kind of weird. I think I'll do that. Instance dot end screen equals this. Okay, looks good. Looks good. This is the important stuff. Looks good. Yeah, nice, cool. Let's run it one more time. Just make sure everything's good. I'm just so happy for this change. It doesn't look great right now, but at least it's usable. There's a giant start battle button. In fact, we should probably make this even larger. But yeah, you click it, starts your battle, and then if you start another battle after that, how did it even know to do that? What? How did it know to do that? What pops that dialogue up? What? I don't know. Oh yeah, the dodges are because I have it set to 90% dodge rate, just the battles take a longer time. Oh, I forgot you could do this. Probably gotta cut that out. Yeah, what's causing this to happen? What is the battle? It's called start battle. Start battle button. There it is. Yeah, and this calls this, which calls into the town, I believe, which calls into this. If it has this, then start battle. Otherwise, pop up the thing. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, that's actually working how it should. Except for one thing, we don't set the slot that we want to use here, right? It's only from the placeholder we do. Okay. That's a big if statement. Yeah, what this is saying is if you have, wait. Oh yeah. If you have only one adventurer total and you only have one instance, then just immediately start a battle. There's no choice. So just bypass the whole UI. All right, I want to check this in, commit this. Okay, now we got to fix something, which is when you can't start a battle. This is technically a problem, right? No, but you could finish this. Hang on, let me see. Okay, so we have a repeat battle. If I just click start battle. Yeah, I feel like this would be confusing. Also, why is the adventurer still there? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Where does that happen? There's like a take adventurers out of battle. Doesn't this set is in battle? Oh, it doesn't remove the entity though. Oh. All right, we need to remove them. How do we do that? Adventurers are nodes. We just set them here, but we create player battlers from these. Have I ever used a debugger? Yeah. I use it plenty of times. I think if you ever find yourself adding a lot of print statements, that it probably means you should dive into debugger. But I don't necessarily think as soon as you encounter a bug, you need to open the debugger. Sometimes, yeah, they're just whatever. You just look at the code or you try some different things out. But yeah, generally I find that it clarifies assumptions faster than any other route. All right, we need to remove the battle. I bet this was always the case and I just never noticed. When you lose, it's not a problem, right? Yeah, when you lose, it's not a problem because... Wait, is it a problem? Oh, your character's dead. I think it's fine then. So if they're living, I want to have them not show up. No, I just don't want them to show up no matter what. I'm planning on localizing it only if it's successful enough. I feel like there are probably some games out there that only will land in language X and not language Y. More because of cultural issues, probably. But I think if the game doesn't do well in English, it's probably not going to do well anywhere else. So I'm not going to put in the time localizing it yet. And I recognize it represents a gigantic amount of work later, but at least you know you're doing that work for some money, I guess. It's released in Chinese. I feel like in China it would do poorly because of the whole focus on skeletons. We'd have to call it Idle Tycoon. And then make everyone have skin. All right, we have to remove battlers from previous stage. Can we just do this? Battlers to remove disappears at stage end or is on enemy team. And then just call remove battler. Okay, I think I know what we need to do then. We need to call remove battler on... Well, for now, actually, what we could do is we could just call it on everything. Take adventurers out of battle. For each battler. Oh, this is perfect. That's exactly what I want. Wow, AI, so great. Yeah, I was thinking about that, Mootsie, and I'm like, I probably shouldn't say that. How's it going, Mootsie? Okay, so start battle, and then when we win, the rogue should go away. Yes, but the screen also went away. Why? Collection was modified. Oh yeah, my bad. Okay, fine. We'll make a battlers to remove thing here. What is this? I guess a hash set. Node battlers to remove. It should know what I want to do here. Good. Then go through each of those. Yep. I should probably write why we're doing that. Might not be obvious. Just so they don't look like they're in multiple battles at once. All right, so we click win. The adventure goes away. It shows which party you used. We can click repeat battle. Game starts again. Yeah. Move all of the adventurers so that it doesn't look like they're in multiple battles at the same time. If you want to localize, I can do PTPT. Well, thank you, Signalist. I'll write it down. Where is that? Here. Yeah. Localize the game, edit, offers, date. Should probably write down where this was said. Twitch. Yeah, I appreciate it. All right. This removes them from battle. I guess that's all we did. Yeah. Remove adventurers from finished battle. They were previously only being marked as no longer being in battle, but their battler still remained. Yeah. Actually, I guess there's an interesting question that most games just don't answer, which is if you can die and then come back, what happened to your bones? Like, are they still out there somewhere? Should we leave your bones on the battlefield? I don't know if we need to answer this question, but I kind of feel like if you died, then your bones should be there on the battlefield, right? Ultima Online had bones. No, but what I mean is like, how did you come back then without your bones? And if you did come back and your bones are still on the ground, like where'd they get created from? Either way, you have a question that goes unanswered. Either how did you come back or what happened to your bones? Although how did you come back, I guess practically every game has some like you revive. Even Mario had it. But how is Mario dying a million times? Depends if you lose your items on death. Body's there and you're cloned. Your old body gets dissolved, but then how'd you get a new body? Where'd that come from? You're supposed to believe it's magic? I think most games don't need to worry about that stuff. There's a certain amount of video game logic that people are okay with, and that's one of them. And the other is hair clipping through armor. Yeah, the power of friendship revived you. And that's why you make friends. Okay, so this is done. These two are not done. So if you're in a battle already, you shouldn't be able to start a new one. What tries to start a new one? Actually, did we fix it? Maybe we already fixed it. Let's try it. Would you like your bones? Can you imagine that? There's actually a game that sort of did something like that. Well, not exactly like that, but Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. At one point, maybe like 60% of the way through the game, they give you a box, I think, and they say something like, don't ever look inside this. Whatever you do, don't look inside it. And you can, of course, choose to look inside the box. And I think it's like, are you sure you want to do this? And when you do, you die. You just immediately die. If you didn't save, too bad. I read online that there were some people who played without saving once, and they just totally lost their save file at that point. Roguelike fixes the issue. Yeah, they generally do. And actually, I guess sometimes it makes sense. Like Rogue Legacy had a concept of every character you played was actually the child of the previous character. So it made sense that you came back, and it made sense that the other person probably had a corpse somewhere, I guess, who plays such a game without saving. I don't know. I do not know. Although they wouldn't have expected something like that to happen. And honestly, even the people who save, you probably still lost maybe 10, 15 minutes of progress if you chose that option and weren't aware that it was a thing. Oh yeah, I was going to test this out. So we start a battle here, and then I wait for this to finish, or I guess I just finished it automatically, and then I try repeating the battle. So now I click repeat, and it breaks. Yeah, we need to stop it from breaking. Move next rare. Huh. All right, where's that coming from? Because that's going to tell us what the problem is. Oh, I cannot parse this myself. I need to copy it into a buffer so I can actually read it. Why can't I copy text? What's going on? Okay, ability system process. Oh, this is on the old battle system because there are no adventurers. Let me try starting this thing again. Yeah, so something needs to know this ahead of time. Yeah. Request repeat battle. This just calls create instance. Okay, this needs to involve the party chooser. Instance, like start instance. I have some logic in here that we need to somehow extract. Actually, if you're only repeating it, I guess we don't need to extract everything. We just need to make sure you're not in battle. We know your party can't be empty. We know you can't have too many adventurers. It's just this one that we need to know. And I guess that's a pretty easy check. Is an adventurer in battle? All adventurers in battle. We just need to know if one of them's in a battle. We need to do something. Pop up an error or something. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Nothing was said about the box. Nobody would bother looking into it. Well, the game like really lays it on thick, if I remember correctly. Like, whatever you do, don't look in this box. It wasn't just a casual like, oh, by the way, you shouldn't do that. It's like they really wanted to make you look into it. But you're right. It's still the whole like, you probably wouldn't have cared if they hadn't laid it on thick. If it were a casual thing, you might have just ignored it. And probably some people did ignore it. And they just thought, oh, it's probably just a joke and I don't care. I'm not going to read it. Okay, so here's what we got to change. Quest repeat battle. This needs to make sure none of the adventurers are in battle. Another battle. Which is easily possible. So to make sure they're not in battle, we could go through, yeah, this, except for this is wrong. It's instance.adventurers. Because you can't delete them. So if it's in battle, then we need to throw, oh man, let me think about this. What if we just showed them faded out? That's probably a cleanup thing. Clean up, make the party section in the end battle screen reflect whether the adventurers are in battle and show an icon on them. Yeah, for now, I don't think we need to do that though. We'll just spawn some floating text here. Text and color. Yeah. Text is going to be, oh, nice. It already fills it in. One of these adventurers is already in battle. Okay, let's see if that works. And I think most people, if you see this happen a lot, you'll eventually realize what you're doing wrong. So we win that battle, we start another battle, we click repeat, and it should say, yeah, it says one of these adventurers is already in battle. Unfortunately, it's creating it here. I kind of wanted to create it on the button itself. But then once that new battle finishes, we should be able to repeat this battle. Yes, we can. And then once that battle finishes, we can repeat the new one. Yeah, perfect. Okay, well, that's good enough for right now. We'll eventually make that. Oh, what's that? Debug kill all battlers. Oh, yeah, that's a different problem. Debug win and debug, well, maybe just debug lose. Seems to not be callable multiple times. Maybe let me do something like that. All right, well, we fixed one problem. Let's keep going one at a time. Prevent repeating battle if adventurers are busy. Good. Next. Let's go with this one next. Every time you debug win a battle, it just adds another end screen. Okay. Get the end credits right after starting the game without having completed everything. I played Stanley Parable. I don't remember getting the end credits that fast. But I haven't played Far Cry 4. Then there are the games where you can unintentionally get to the end credits like 5 minutes after starting, like A Link to the Past. Or I guess, well, Ocarina of Time is probably like 18 minutes or something. But I always, it's one of these things that you can never do. But imagine going back in time. Super Mario 64 hasn't even been released. The developers are just finished developing it. And you burst into their building and you're like, I can beat this game in an hour and 20 minutes. They're like, no, you can't. Like, watch me. You slam the cartridge into the system. Start slamming out backwards long jumps and whatever else. Like, what's this person doing? Would they try to fix their game? Would they be like, where did this time traveler come from? Or like Tetris, you already know what the rolling method they use? Yeah. Yeah. There are a lot of things you could do in history if you went back and showed that you had knowledge of something that people would just think you're magical, and I guess you would be magical because you'd have gone back in time. But yeah, imagine those like really old Nintendo tournaments that they used to host. If you were just an expert, no one could beat you. Like, how's this person so good? They must be cheating. Whereas all we have in our history is real game cheaters. Win all battles. Debug win. Battle ended. Battle ended needs to be the case only if it hadn't already ended. And I don't know if we keep track of that. There's just on battle ended, but we don't know for sure that it was called already. Is the battle system now? On battle ended. No, nothing knows. Oh, has ended. Battle has already ended. Okay. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? This is basically unused. And debug instance. I guess if you call battle ended and it was already ended, just do nothing. Yeah. Okay. Then we can just make this be public. Public bool has ended. Get private set. I think it's a private set. Where do we set this? We never even set this. Oh man, this doesn't even work. Oh boy. Seriously? This really? Yeah, I guess not. Okay. Well, we need to do it from here. If either team has no members alive, we need to call battle ended. Yeah. Private void battle ended. I'm guessing this is the name of our signal that we already have. No, it's not. Okay. And then battle result has ended, and cool. There, done with that. Now we just replace these. We could just put an else here. Actually cuts down on the number of lines. It is the same logic. Braces should not share a line. That means I have a syntax error somewhere. Because auto saving or auto format on save should just fix that. Oh, did I check this in? Oh my god. Well, we got to undo that. Let's get rid of that. I accidentally had the dodge chance set to 90% no matter what. Where is the syntax error? Oh, here, semicolon. Done. If I went back and told Nintendo I could beat the Mario games quickly, I think the first thing they would ask is, how'd you get into the building? Or how do you know about the game? Or why aren't you speaking Japanese? You know it. Been much discussion about cheating in FPSs. Unfortunately, that skilled developers ruin the experience for so many players who spend their free time trying to have fun. Oh, I was like, why are skilled developers a problem? If a dev writes a game and then they're just really good at the game, isn't that because they practice a lot? But I see what you mean. Skilled, like, cheat developers. Because actually, this is something, I know this isn't the point of the message, but usually developers are really, really good at their own games. And it's pretty impressive. It's possible to make a game you're not good at because you might just, I mean, like, imagine if you're the one who created basketball, for example. You're not just a pro at basketball just because you made the game. But yeah, generally you have a lot of practice at the game you're creating. Hey, DeMonkey. Keep playtesting, so understandable. Yeah. Like, Darkstorm is probably the most consistent jump royale winner. I'm assuming there have been more plays there than anybody else. Okay, so now we have has ended here, and we can actually check it. I don't know why this didn't auto fix itself, but fine, we can fix it. Everything else should just be fine. Cool. Yep. Battle ended. So if the battle system has ended already, just ignore this. We only Actually, should I just ignore this? This is from debug functions. Maybe this is a bad idea. Yeah, I don't like this. I think it's a bad idea. I think we should put this in a different function. And mainly just the debug function that we have here. So this, for example, if the battle system has ended already, just return. So prevent you from shooting yourself in the foot. And then debug kill all adventurers, same thing. If the battle system's already ended, just don't do anything. And that should fix our problem. Actually, possibly both problems. I made a puzzle game in 100% in about an hour. Okay, yeah, puzzle games are basically cheating. Although you might have forgotten the solution. I wrote a puzzle game a long time ago. What's wrong with this? I wrote a puzzle game a long time ago and I basically just forgot how to beat it. What is wrong with this? Math.clamp. That should be fine. What is this even in? Battle system? Math.clamp. Yeah, what? Math F? But it was already written here before. Oh, dodge chance is missing. Yeah. Okay, now what's wrong? I'm just going to copy paste this. I'm not going to try to figure this out. Syntax error still. That might not be real. Maybe I just need to rebuild. It depends on your attitude toward your work. If you want to create good results, you play it a lot. But if you just want to earn money, you don't take a second look. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I guess I generally agree with that. I think a lot of game developers, like, I generally have this stereotype that game developers are generally more passionate about their work than other developers. And that's, you know, it can't be true in every case. But I think if you're more passionate, you're probably playing your game. Which libraries would you recommend for making a Civ-like game in the browser, considering Vue and HTML for UI elements and Three.js for map and units? Appreciate your input. I do recommend using a game engine if you're going to be making a game. The nice thing about HTML is that you have the HTML UI libraries and everything, or frameworks too. And for games, that can save a lot of time. So I made Botland in a combination of React and a rendering engine called Pixie. So Pixie did all the game UI and then React did all the, or sorry, Pixie did all the game graphics and then React did all of the UI. So it's possible, but I think at some point you're probably gonna want functions for the game that only exist from a game engine. So like Three.js is a rendering library, but you might not have all the game logic you would want, handling input and music and sounds and all that. And you'll cobble together a bunch of libraries and then realize like you're spending a lot of time on it. So yeah, I suggest starting with just a game engine and then seeing where that takes you. Forgot how to beat your own puzzle game. It was these were like really obscure puzzles. I could probably revive them at some point and maybe show you. But yeah, one of them, it was kind of a cool concept because I didn't know what it would be like in practice. I don't even know how to show you this, but imagine a grid system. So you have a grid of whatever, something like this. And then in any of the cells, there could be an arrow. So you might have something like this. And then you had a character that you moved between these cells. And when you moved anywhere in the same row or column as an arrow facing you, the arrow would move to the cell. Like if you were here, then the arrow would move to here. And then it wouldn't be here anymore. And then the arrow became a wall. So you had to move around this grid in such a way that you got these arrows to move. But it wasn't really all that fun. And some of the puzzles I made just way too hard. And I couldn't even remember how to beat them. I think some genres, it won't always be true, like an FPS game where a lot of skill is translatable from other games. Yeah. Yeah. You can try hacking cheats for your own game. I think if you wrote a game, you're probably the best equipped to cheat at your own game. But it's just like if you wrote a program, you're probably not the best equipped to do security for your own program. I think we just have blind spots sometimes. But as far as hacks and cheats go, it's like if you wrote anti-cheat methods, you probably know what those methods are and then probably how to beat them. Like what's done client side, what's done server side, where there might be vulnerabilities, where things weren't tested as well. Interesting exploits that they tend to leave in. Yeah, and the other thing too is like if the entirety of the casual population playing your game doesn't encounter a bug or glitch, but the speedrunning community depends on it, then should you patch it out? Like Undertale had this thing where reading a sheet of paper lets you skip certain scenes or something like that. I don't know if they patched it out or not, but they just were totally unaware. Most players probably never even encountered it. Did this fail? It did, but I still don't know. What is happening? It's like something's wrong. I guess we just need to look at the diff and we'll probably find it pretty quickly. No. I don't know. It's complaining about a missing semicolon. I don't think one even exists. I'm going to try just restarting this. Not that restarting this would fix the errors that are popping out, but let's try rebuilding this now. Most game engines export to web as well. Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of ones nowadays do. Or some equivalent thing like a WASM container. Yeah, I don't think there's a problem now. I don't know what happened. Oh, you can apparently drag everything all at once. Interesting. Let's try running it. Yep, it's just working. Okay. Well, what did I even do? Oh yeah, I made it so that you can't click debug win battle multiple times, right? Well, no, I did not. Why is it happening so many times? If it's ended, then return, otherwise called battle ended. Battle ended is done here. Oh, the battle never finds out about this. Oh, we could have this listen to the instances battle ended. We don't even pass any instance, so we couldn't do that. We could just set has ended somewhere. Or we could have the debug function go into the battle and do all this stuff. That probably makes more sense. Let's see. Kill all battlers. And what's this one do? All battle ended. Debug win. Oh, because it has to skip all the way to the end of this. Okay, fine. We're going to do this then. We're going to say battle system dot has ended equals true. And it can't be done like that, which is why we're just going to make this public right now. And then same thing over here. There. That should fix it. Did you miss the interview? No, the interview is in 34 minutes. So I'm going to take a break in maybe like 20 more minutes, and then we'll start getting ready for it. We just did an audio test over lunch, so everything should be all set up and ready to go. I don't even know what I just pressed. Oh, no, I know what I pressed now. Okay, yeah. Oh. I put in a lot of work yesterday, and at the end of the day, I was like, what did I even do? I actually went here to the commit history, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about all of this. I made a bunch of different things. The biggest thing that I did, though, was this. This was the massive commit that I made that changed a bunch of files. For those who might remember, I used to have a file here. Used to have something called all ability data, and it was pretty basic. It had an ID and then a display name and then a type and then potentially any modifiers that it depended on. And there was just a giant dictionary of all of that. The problem is that this file is separate from all the abilities. So when I want to add a new ability, like let's say I just added Fireball to the code base, I code Fireball, make it do damage, set all the parameters of it. And then I had to go into this other file and then set something in there too. And if you didn't do both of those things, you wouldn't have an ability. Well, now it can pull it in directly from the ability itself. And I do still have an attribute here so that we can figure out which ones are abilities at runtime. Splash art is amazing. Yeah, that was Quickie Joe's work. I really like it. I also think it lends a lot of legitimacy to have graphics early on into the game. Okay, so this should be fixed. We go to win battles. Yep, it's not doing anything bad. Not doing anything bad. Let's try this again. Yep, cool. Looks like it's working. win, start, repeat. We can't repeat this because the battle's already going on. We can win that, repeat. Yep, cool. Let's do grant most things. Let's start up a thing in the forest over here. Repeat that battle, win all. Good, you beat forest. That's something happened there that looked wrong. Yeah, lose all battles isn't working. Lose all battles, kill all adventurers. Go through each instance, kill all adventurers. If it's ended, then return. Otherwise, kill them all and say that it's ended. Oh, there's an error. Collection was modified. Where's that? Debug kill all battlers? Insta-kill. And insta-kill is the last battler, and then the last battler triggers an immediate battle ended thing. Which then causes us to remove all of the adventurers, huh? No, that doesn't make sense. I guess. Yeah, how does that make sense? Filter battlers by team. Oh, it's an IEnumerable, not a list. If it were a list, it would be fine. Well, it's a debug function, so let's just make it a list. Like, this doesn't happen in the real game. So how did we get that to happen? We just spam this button. And then we started a new battle with the mage, and then hit repeat, and then lose. Yeah. Yeah, and then as I was doing this, I realized this wording is fine for now. You failed to beat forest, but I should probably say like the forest or something. In which case we have a display name and then display name with article or something. Although I imagine most of these would just be the Volcano 3 would sound weird though. I think it's fine for now. Okay. All right, let's check that in. Yeah, reset the dodge chain. I hadn't meant to check that in originally. Okay. Yeah, I think this looks good. Should have been one other call that has ended equals true. Where? Oh, because, yeah, I see. Well, wait a second, then why don't we just call battle and, oh, it's private. Okay, fine. All right, so fix debug win/lose buttons. It was possible to end a battle multiple times, which did all sorts of bad things. All right, so that's done. This is done. This is done. Do we have enough time to do anything else? Maybe. This should use the same slot. It's possible you can't repeat. Yep, that's done. So now edit party or location. This is maybe doable in 13 minutes. Let's try it. I doubt it. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it that fast, but we'll still try. So we go into here, we make another button. We call this the edit party button. It says edit party/location. Then we copy that into end battle screen. Edit party button. And then it's pressed is going to be edit party. Yeah. All right, what does this do? This probably calls out to the town. There was a, what, request on repeat battle? That called into instances manager. On repeat, yeah. and that passed it upward into the town. So the town could do something. In this case, we want to show the start instance or the instance chooser thing. But we also want to set that it has a certain set of adventurers, a location. How do we know those things? I guess the instance knows all of that. The instance has a location. And the instance has your adventurers. And it has a slot. Yeah, I guess we just need that. Okay, cool. So let's do on edit party. Takes in an instance. Yep. Just call the exact same thing. Then over in the instances manager, we want to say on edit. We got to make this a little more specific. On edit battle party. Sure. Yeah, sure. On edit. Oh, the end screen needs it? Didn't I do that? Why is that not showing? On edit party. Elements should be separated. Huh. I don't know why it's not showing. On edit party. Okay. Now the town needs the same thing. Repeat. Is it request repeat? Yes, it is. On edit battle party. Yep. On edit battle party. Cool. So how does this work? We need to set the slot number in start instance, which I believe is private right now. Yep. Let's just make a public function here, right? Public void edit battle party instance edit battle party. Okay, so far so good. So we set the slot number, we set the adventurers, we need to, this won't be easy. We need to remove everyone who is in the available members, assuming they're in the battle party, and anyone who was in the battle party needs to be set to the, okay, how are we gonna do this? Put everyone in the available party, and then put instance.adventurers into the, yeah, this. This is not how we do this. How do we toggle someone to the other thing? What's going on here? What is going on here? What happened? Did I accidentally press enter there? Yes. Yeah, so there's somewhere that I swap between parties. Where is that? I think it's in the party chooser. Party chooser. Battle state changed. On click party member. That's what happens. So we pass in a party section and an adventurer. So we just need to. What am I doing? Let's just make a new function. All right, something's fishy here. I don't know what I'm doing to like mess this all up. Yeah, let's try again. Hey, Phoenix boys. So we're gonna how are we gonna do this? I guess set battle party. So we can't clear this section. We need to move them to the adventurers section. So I guess for each, what's in a battle party? Party section. Do we have a way to get all of the members of this? Get adventurers, yeah. They are just adventurers? I might be complicating things here, but we'll take a look at this once we clean up. So a party chooser dot adventurers, get available adventurers and get, yeah. So we need to say get battle party. This is all those adventurers. And now we need to swap them. Okay. in battle, get battle party. Okay, we can just call on click. Yeah, you just call on click. This is hacky for sure. So we pass in the battle section and the adventurer. All right, this puts everyone into the available party. Now we need to add them back. This is dumb. Like I said, I'll change this. Yeah. So now we do this. This is with the available party section. Adventure section. There. Okay. Very bizarre. Very, very bizarre. I'm not claiming that this looks great. All right. There we go. And then we just need to set the location. Where is the location? Why don't I see it? There's instance list. How do you know which one you're selected? It's in the instance list. Oh, there's another class. Oh. Okay. Do we have a way of setting that? Can you just set this thing and it knows how to work? No, it does not. There is a set function. Is that public? Nope. Well, now it is. And then we put this with the rest of the public functions. And then we just call that. Where did my... Here it is. Instance list dot set selected instance dot ID. Okay, I think that is everything. Oh, we need to make it visible as well. Right? Who's going to be in charge of that? I guess this could be. Show. There. Let's try it out. Just got to fix that incredibly hacky hack I put in. How are we doing on time? Yeah, we're fine on time. Okay. So start battle. Now let's grant ourselves a bunch of adventurers and then win. And now there's edit party. I click that. It does nothing. It just breaks. End battle screens ready thing failed. Hey, alter baby. And I know, Dark, I'm not going to say that. Can't fool me. Repeat battle button. Yep. Whoops, this was supposed to be this. Okay. Start battle. Win, grant, and edit. Okay, so we popped up the edit thing. We're going to just swap them with the mage. So when I start this, the mage should be in this battle, but it should still be the forest. Okay, good. And they shoot a fireball. Good. Okay, now I'm going to edit again. And we're going to have the mage go to the dungeon. Good. I'm going to start a battle over here. Ooh, that's not good. This is a minor bug, though. Bug when start instance is already visible. Clicking start battle in the placeholder will hide it. Yeah. I'm getting depressed at work. Do I quit? I don't think it's that simple. I think there is a lot that goes into depression. If you have, let's say, fully identified that it comes from work and that you can't solve it any other way, then yes, I guess you quit. But I think there's a lot of stuff that happens before that. Yeah. And yeah, I think the first thing is probably talking to people. But I generally don't think that, well, I was gonna say, I generally don't think it's caused by just that one thing. Probably there are other things going on in your life that are maybe missing or too much or overwhelming. So for example, maybe whatever, you had a social support system through friends or family and they've been absent lately. Maybe something else happened and you need to process that thing first. You lost somebody, or I don't know, maybe you're just in crunch time at work. Maybe you've been at the job for too long. Could be anything. With that said, I definitely think it's worthwhile to examine that for yourself and try to figure out what is causing this. Why do I feel this way? How long has it been? I myself did a video on this of like, why did I leave Google? And yeah, the more I kind of look back at that time, the more I think it sounds an awful lot like depression. So it can be hard to identify exactly. Work 2 years without a break. I mean, that you felt the need to say without a break could imply that it's just you need a break. Yeah. And you even just said that. I want to have a full 1 month break. So possibly that's all you need to kind of get back into the swing of things. But then after that, it's not like you can just work 2 years, take a 1 month break. You've got to find a healthy balance while you're working. Okay, so the bug was that it popped that thing up. Then I think I got sidetracked. Okay, so we edit this to be there. Yep, that looks good. Start a battle. Choose maybe this character. Looks good. Start another battle. Choose a cleric, the only one left. They should die pretty quickly. I mean, the adventurer should die. Then I think when you choose your party, maybe this thing should close now. Yeah, you can't use it anymore. Start instances, start battle button should probably close the UI now that we have repeat and edit buttons at the end of the instances. Dandy, you've injected this conversation about ugliness in here. I feel like learning and progressing, things I want to learn and enjoy. I can't. Yeah. This, okay. So for one thing is clear, at least through how you've mentioned this in just like a half page of chat, is you're overworked right now. Whether that's depression, whether that's linked to depression, whether that's the only thing you need to fix is really hard to say from this. But yeah, I definitely think you need a break. And I think taking a break is good, but then it's not like a break is just a magical solution. So afterward, it's like, how are you working too much? How did you go 2 years without a vacation? Is there pressure at work to do that? Are you unable to? You just literally don't have the vacation time. Those are the kinds of things I would try to figure out. And then at whatever your next job is, find a way to avoid that. So if it was like, well, this boss just doesn't let me take vacation, then yeah, finding a new boss is probably a good idea. No pressure at work, but I like working. Yeah, you might have to force breaks. I mean, this is something I have my own tenant system I look at every Monday. And for the longest time, I had that I just need to take breaks because otherwise it's very easy to get burned out. And the breaks I was talking about were like a break every hour. But I think breaks every week or month or a year are also good. Work even off hours without being asked. Yeah. This is the kind of stuff when I say to analyze this, I think these are all important. And yeah, the overwork thing definitely comes through. Did it get a full-time position trying to impress directors and seniors and manager? Did it work? Has it happened? I think I've got to take my break now. Yeah, I've got to take my break now because I'm going to start the interview in 14 minutes and I've got to, it worked quite well. Yeah, well then look, be a little nicer to yourself and don't keep the pressure on. It sounds like it's all internal pressure right now. And I'll write new instance overlap. That one's done. Where I left off, clean up the commit I made. I have a hack with on party member clicked or something like that. What did I call it? Party chooser. On click party member. That I need to fix. So clean up the commit I made and then fix the small bugs. Mention, yeah, just fix these small bugs. I'll just move them up the list. Yeah. Burnt out every week, but I still like the workplace. Problem is more to do with my personality, I guess. Well, look, that's a good thing to realize and a somewhat easy thing to fix. I mean, you're in control of yourself. If you were like, I hate my team, that's a much harder thing to fix because you're not in control of your team. I guess you're in control of who you work with. You could probably just quit. Yeah. Want someone in life to slap me every day and push me into doing things and maintaining discipline? I'm pretty sure those people exist, but I think it's slightly different direction from what you're talking about. I will be back in just a little bit and then we'll start switching into interview mode. Is it jump time? It's jump time. Hey everybody, took down the green screen, closed the game. Everyone's jumping around like crazy over here. Hey Caleb. Nice, yeah. I look forward to hearing the game idea too. All right, so we're gonna go into interview prep mode. This is usually super fast. Yeah. Let me go into studio mode over here, interview. Okay, take down my green screen's done, that's done. Zoom out my camera a bit more. Let's do that. There we go. Anything bad in the room behind me? No, I think we're good. What do you commonly like to do if you're comfortable sharing? It's not what I like to do really. It's like water, bathroom, and then if I still have some extra time, I've been playing Picross on my phone. That's it. But the breaks are like 3 or 4 minutes, so yeah, there's not really much I can do. Keep Discord on my left monitor, ping people on Discord. Oh yeah, this time around I wanted to do that. So all right, I'll write this down. I gotta ping people on Discord. Yeah, sometimes I come back early and just watch people play. Conduct the interview from Obsidian. Oh yeah, I gotta do this. Okay, engage privacy mode. Does that work or no? It does. You guys aren't seeing my screen, right? I'm not. I'm seeing your screen. Okay. Yeah, let me change this. It's just very small. Okay, good. Yeah. Everyone's worrying me over here. Yeah, there's a tiny version of it. I don't mind that. I just want to make sure there wasn't anything else. All right, let me find the Sharon Lo notes. Here they are. Cool. Okay, cool. Change stream titles. Yeah. So I know I have to ping people on Discord. Oh, I see Casey here now. So stream title is going to be interviewing Sharon Lo, product lead at GitHub Copilot. Doesn't accidentally show that in full size someday. Well, I usually do glance over at least. Yeah, let's comment this. All right, interviewing, get rid of the C# stuff. Godot engine. And then I don't want to actually change the title just yet. Okay. And then anything else? Where'd the list go? Here it is. Change the data command. Yeah, so ecom. Adam is interviewing Sharon Lo, product lead at GitHub Copilot. I will not be saving some time for the end. At least I don't think so. Yeah, there we go. AI tag would be good. Actually, you know what? You're right. Yeah, I can use an AI tag. Because we are going to be talking about AI. I mean, her job is very, very AI centric. And that's it. Let me change the title now. Then I'll ping people on Discord. Oh, okay. Yeah. FYI, the interview with Sharon Lo is starting in about 5 minutes. And then I guess I'll put a link to Twitch. Why did that not work? There we go. Exactly. See my last message. Let me see. You can tell that Copilot is a blessing for people with disabilities. I code with just a mouse because that's all I can use, and Copilot helps a lot with that. Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, these are the kinds of things I would probably mention if I were mentioning everything from what people had said in chat. But I got to be a little bit careful because I feel like with the last interview I did, I sort of ran out of time. And there's usually a lot to talk about. So yeah, it's mostly just a time thing. Okay, so I pinged people. I've changed the title and everything. I think we are pretty good. Now, what's her name on Discord? Drat, stupid streamer mode. I can't tell who. Oh, there we go. Okay, got it. Give me a sec. Yeah, anyway, I'm very excited. I really have been enjoying these interviews, and I don't have any other ones booked after this, but I'm hoping that we can attract more people to the set of interviews. And Caleb reached out to me with a suggestion. So I can't follow through yet because there's no certainty to this, but there's like a hint of a person potentially on the horizon. All right, I'm gonna ping Sharon and say, ready whenever you are. Ready whenever you are. Call when I see your icon turn green, probably. And then for those of you who've never seen these interviews before, they're generally, unfortunately, not interactive with chat. So like I try to advise the person I'm interviewing not to read chat, and I also try not to read chat. But I still urge you to talk to each other and kind of comment on things. It lets me know what you're enjoying, what you're not enjoying. Steve Jobs interview when? You missed the conversation earlier on video games and what do they do when you die and come back? How do they explain it? Maybe Steve Jobs is out there somewhere in a video game. What are you trying to look for in an interviewee? So originally it was just people to talk to, and I think we're going to eventually shift to sort of more prominent figures in an industry or experts, something like that. But I don't have any major plans. If this is interesting content for people and you have someone you think is an interesting person and they have something they want to talk about, then cool. Yeah, we can check it out. I can always talk to the person and just kind of vet them beforehand. Okay, I see Sharon is now green on Discord, so I'm going to give her a call. Let's see if this works. Oh, I got to select this thing again. Hello, hello.
Hi.
Okay, let's do a quick audio test. Chat, can you hear Sharon? Sharon, you want to tell me what you had for lunch today?
I had like sad leftovers.
Sad leftovers.
Is my background better? I can't fully see what is visible.
Yeah,
I kind of just put things around. Okay,
it's
cool.
good. And I have you slightly cut off because of what we talked about earlier. I can move you a little to the side here. Yeah.
Perfect. You got me. That
Okay,
sounds
well,
great.
thank you very much for joining. We talked a little bit beforehand about what you wanted to talk about, but given that you're working on GitHub Copilot and that's what attracted a lot of people here, can you give me an overview of what you work on, what you do, what your responsibilities are?
Sweet. Yeah. So hi everyone. My name is Sharon. Yeah, I'm a product manager on Copilot. And specifically, I lead the Copilot extensibility team. So you can think about everything around basically our vision is like how do we turn Copilot from not only a product, but an actual platform
Hmm.
that enables you as developers to then build on top of this platform. And really our thinking was we can build all these product features, but no one will be able to scale that better than the developer community and building for all these diverse use cases. So that's really the goal of extensions. And then it started with enabling extensions through chat.
Mm-hmm.
And so from Copilot chat, you can use natural language to talk to your like preferred tools or services, like at Docker, like help me deploy this project or something like that. And the goal is that one, we reduce context switching for you as developers. It's just less back and forth, but also that you can actually start to talk to your tools in natural language is what we think is really cool. So you don't have to remember any obscure commands or queries. And how do we start to bring this all together? So
Yeah,
yeah.
so that sounds great. You had a launch just recently, well, somewhat recently now, for extensions. What has the feedback been like? How do you feel? You were super busy around that time. Just tell me everything.
Yeah, I think feedback has been positive. We've kept it pretty limited. Like right now, it's invite only,
Mm,
only because we were like, let's learn from a small set of users. And also for the folks building, our integrators building extensions, I think this is like a learning process for them. I like to think of it as like really early iOS days. And few folks are even thinking about like, how do we build an app? What makes an app useful? It's the same with these extensions. I think a lot of our partners are like, still very early on in building these integrations and figuring out how to make it useful. So Reception has been good. I'm
Yeah.
very excited to see how it grows, and we're hoping actually in August. And Adam, I'll ping in the list. We're going to open up a public wait list, so anyone can sign up on the wait list, and we want to be able to start enabling people in larger quantities to be able to try out these extensions and give us feedback. So yeah,
Okay. So let's say I'm, Joe Schmo, developer somewhere, not a mega company. Could I also make an extension for this once that public waitlist is available?
yeah, good question. So GitHub's annual conference is called Universe, and that's end of October. So
Hmm.
end of October is when we plan to open it up to all integrators. So as Joe Schmo, you could definitely create an extension starting end of October, but the August waitlist is more for as an end user, you could access the extensions.
I see. I
Yeah,
see. So the ones that a company like Docker made, let's say, and then,
exactly.
okay, that's going to be, yeah, very interesting. So coincidentally, there was a comment just before this started from someone who said Copilot, not necessarily Copilot extensions, really helped this person with accessibility because they're a mouse user and it enabled them to just use the mouse for development. And these extensions sound like that's going to now apply to much more than just coding. So is the general target, even though it's developers, is it more toward the ops side of things, more toward coding, just whatever a company decides they want to make?
Good question. I would say whatever. I think it's starting very software development focused, and it could be anywhere in the software development lifecycle. It could be ops, it could be, security, testing, anything. But my higher level vision is I think it's going to be really cool when these integrations start expanding beyond like these typical software development partners. And so, for example, a Figma extension, a Minecraft extension,
Hmm.
and I think that one of GitHub's missions is like how do we expand to like 1 billion developers, and I see that as more of like how do we broaden what being a developer means. So imagine you have a kid who's on Copilot using the Minecraft extension to like build their own game or build their own Minecraft plugin. That would be awesome, and be able to make all like development and coding just much more accessible for different groups of audiences and people. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and with that accessibility comes a flood of development. So this happens with everything, right? An app store launches and people, it's a gold rush to get there first and to, is monetization part of this? Is there a route for the average person to say, I made a Minecraft Copilot extension. I'd like to monetize that for Minecraft users?
Yeah, so that is definitely something in plan. I would say for this universe launch, which I said is end of October, we don't have exact monetization set up, but that is definitely in the direction
Yep.
of we want to see a path where extension builders can, monetize off the platform just like any successful app platform. I think more so when we're launching in broadening to users, it's kind of to really understand, hey, like, is there an appetite for this here? Is this
Yeah,
the right
yeah,
product? And once we get like, I think the right engagement, then I think we're going to move into monetization as well.
I
Yeah,
see. Yeah, I find product fit is definitely the way to go at first and then figure out where you want to go from there. Um, I'm
exactly.
excited. I think this is really cool. And I've been using Copilot myself. And I think I talked to you about this a while ago. And you said back then, I don't know for sure if your title has changed or if this is still part of the umbrella of what you work for, but you said responsible AI was part of what you're doing.
Mhm.
Are you still doing that?
Yeah, so I used to be kind of more of the Copilot responsible AI owner, but actually, thankfully, recently a new PM joined who's now owning that. So I've been focused to move more towards extensions, and she's really owning everything responsible AI. But I would say, even though she's driving a lot of the initiatives, I do think as any product manager, it's important that we all own responsible AI a little bit, not too different from like privacy, accessibility, security. It doesn't really make sense if there's just one person on the team driving that versus everyone on the team taking accountability. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, so I wanted to ask a little bit more on this front. Um, Back at the beginning of 2023, Microsoft laid off its ethics and well, I think it was ethics and society is the full name of the
Yeah.
team. And you were one of the people who was affected. Uh, Really fast. Sorry. Thank you for the raid, Alta. For I'm doing an interview. I don't tend to read chat during this time. I'm interviewing Sharon Lo, who is a product lead at GitHub Copilot. Um, anyway, so you were part of the layoffs back then, and we talked shortly thereafter that layoff. And this is, the very long segue we're going to do into mental health and the tech industry in general. But I wanted to
Yeah.
focus on the ethics and society part of this first. So there's now a new PM. You said she's owning responsible AI at GitHub. But what did it mean when Microsoft shifted to laying off a team and then still having individual folks work on this in their products?
Yeah, I think, man, that's a good question. Very loaded. I think I like try to think. I do think the benefit of the ethics society team when we existed is that we were a horizontal team. So
Hmm.
we basically served ethics in a very bird's eye view fashion. I think that gave the team a lot of oxygen to think deeply about these issues, which I think is really important. Like when you're thinking about questions like, there's been a lot of questions, even for example, for Copilot, right? What is the future of AI development and how do we empower developers and not feel like this is like replacing their jobs or their skills or profession, right? So these are things that I think take a lot of deep thinking and research. And when you're doing it on a product team, it's really hard to have that space
Mm.
because you're just under so much pressure to deliver to customers and bring impact consistently. So the horizontal team, I think, gave us a lot more time to think deeply about those issues, and that's kind of what I miss. Versus, I think now that we've kind of divided a lot of that responsibility per product team, I do think sometimes we get into this hole of a little bit more of like, okay, what is the bare minimum that we need to do versus being able to, again, that extra moment, like extra oxygen gives you time to like think more deeply, think ahead, have foresight and things like that.
Yeah, well, you mentioned loaded question. I'm going to keep going in the loaded direction here a little bit. Microsoft is one of the companies that sets trends for the industry. And by laying
Yeah.
off an ethics and responsibility team, I feel like that sort of sends a message. Do you see this in the broader industry of AI and ethics? Do they are companies being responsible? Do you have insight into that, or is this a more you're focused at Microsoft?
I think it really depends on like what you define responsibility to mean. So I would say that, at the time that our team existed, for us responsibility was not like let's let's just make sure we're like compliant. I think a lot of it was like what is the future of AI and product and how do we make human-centered AI development and designs.
Yeah.
I think that right now, I think responsibility it means something different everywhere, and I think it's what a company has to define. I do think Microsoft's doing a really great job though of being like, okay, what is like policy around RAI? What is developing RAI policy, and how do we really take a approach of like do no harm? So there's a lot of really active investment at Microsoft in terms of what they call responsible AI red teaming.
Hmm.
We quite literally have like SWAT teams that go to these AI products and like majorly test them to understand what are some potential harms and how do we mitigate those harms. I think there's like two axes. One is like mitigate harms, one is like promote the max benefit. And
Mm.
so I feel like ideally, again, you have to figure out where in responsibility do you define as your what you want to be as a company. And I think that will determine then how much you then invest in it.
I
Yeah.
see. I see. And I think there's a natural incentive here to not want your AI to promote bad messages, anything clearly harmful to users. And we've seen some of that in the past happen, and they were kind of snafus, but that was before large language models. Uh,
Yeah.
One of the things I want to ask about here is you've mentioned that this responsibility and ethics team needed to take a larger look at the future of AI and not just, okay, what do we do for right now? And you also mentioned earlier, you don't want developers to feel threatened or like they're going to be replaced. How do you manage that given that every tool that helps us is also a tool that could eventually kind of replace us? What is the thinking internally there to stop that from happening or to ease that transition?
Totally. I think it's more like really thinking about when we think about a developer today, we've talked to a lot of user research in terms of like in your job scope, what are things you want to spend time doing?
Mm.
What are things you don't want to spend time doing? And what are the things that you wish you had more time to do?
Yeah.
And I feel like the goal of any tool is like, how do we make what you don't want to do super easy or even potentially automated? How do we enable you to do the things you want to do easier for you to have that information and then also give space for you to do the things you want to do? So that's really the principle that I think we think about it. You'll notice that for GitHub Copilot, and I often mention that it was like a very strategic decision to call it like co-pilot. Like it
Yeah.
is your co-pilot, you are the pilot. It's not, like I've seen some products that are like, this is like your AI coworker or your AI engineer. We definitely don't take that stance. Our stance is always like, how do we approach this from a standpoint of where folks would want to give work to like a co-pilot while they drive in the pilot seat. Um, and make those mundane or boilerplate things easier or just like less annoying. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer for this. Someone had asked me a while ago, what are my thoughts on AI? And I said right
Mhm.
now, I think it's just making developers who use it more efficient and then it's not replacing jobs. And someone
Yeah.
said, well, what if it does get to that point? And I said, I have more problems than I have time right now. So if it cuts out half of my problems, I'll still have enough problems to solve. If it cuts out 99%, then maybe I'm in trouble. But
Yes.
until we hit that
Yeah.
point, yeah.
Yeah. And
So,
I think we talk a lot about like how does AI not only help you get a better answer? So that's kind of our first thing. Like you said, like kind of even in terms of facing your current problems, how do we make that even better?
mhm.
Like how do we give you more context, more information? But also how do we help you ask better questions? And so I think that's really the end goal is like I mentioned, how does this basically enable new types of software engineering that wasn't possible before because you have this extra time, because you have these extra resources, et cetera. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And you kind of mentioned this with asking better questions. One of the things that I've talked about on the stream in the past is there have been technology introductions that have invalidated a certain category of jobs, but then produced new ones at the same time. So it was like, well, now we have computers, we have automated machinery for all these things, and we need people to operate those and to make new versions of those. And one of the things with AI, the advent of that has been, well, there will be people who are doing prompt engineering who are trying to come up with what's the best. Well, when you mention AI should help us ask better questions, it almost, I mean this half jokingly here, it almost sounds like AI is going to solve its own prompt engineering problems by making you ask better questions that you'll feed into the AI to give you your answers to those questions.
Yeah, yeah, totally. But it is very ironic as you're saying that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and one of the things we talked about a while ago was Devin. Devin had just came out, I think, when we first kind of scheduled the interview, and unfortunately, it's not a totally free product, and there are some open source variants that I looked into at the time, but those were positioned as like a, hey, this is a software engineer that you could essentially use to replace a more junior person on your team.
Yeah.
I feel like there's been less focus on that now as companies are pushing wider AI products. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is how do you see AI positioned when it comes to specifically junior engineers? How do you see them using it? What is the impact on junior developers?
Yeah, I feel like I think it's also again teasing apart like what is in the act of development. I think there's the act of coding, but I think the actual act of like software engineering and creating is is separate. I mean, they're all combined,
Yeah.
right? I always think of, I think Copilot can help you with coding and it can help you with software, but I think it's going to not necessarily be in the place of helping you really understand what do I want to create? How do I be innovative around that? How do I actually design the architecture of a system? Like these are things that maybe the AI can improve in. And so I would say for junior developers, I feel like there's a lot of ways that like I've sometimes I think about how different my me getting computer science degree would have been with Copilot. Like I struggled so much on Stack Overflow as I feel like a lot of us did through that time. And I like to think of it as I think every junior developer being really intentional again about what do they want to be good at and how do they hone those skills. And again, what are those more boilerplate coding things that would make sense for you to divvy up to like a co-pilot or get instructional learning? Um, but again, I don't have all the answers. I do kind of really wonder what is the effect of AI on the profession of developers and just I feel like we grew up on such a way where we had to tinker to like the very, very bottom of a stack. And I think that helps in a lot of ways of when things go wrong, we need to troubleshoot. We really understand everything that is involved. I think when coding starts moving, as you start moving coding to maybe more of a natural language approach of like you want to code in natural language, if something goes wrong, like who has the expertise to be able to troubleshoot it? These are open questions I have. So I don't know, Adam, actually, if you've thought about it, I'd love to hear your thoughts there.
Yeah. So, when people ask me, there have been some very sort of strong opinions shared in my community about I don't think AI is good for junior developers. And
Mm,
I look at this sort of like how you do. It's a tool. And I think of a tool as being something you can provide harm or benefit with. When it comes to junior developers, I think I've actually met some people in real life who've said, "Oh yeah, I worked on this some project." And I was like, "Oh, how did you do that? That sounds pretty complex." And they said, "I use ChatGPT." I thought, oh
Mm,
boy, like what does this mean for this person's learning? What is the quality of the output that they produce for their company? And I think that's a case of them leaning too much on the tool so that they then don't know how to build that thing themselves. And I
yeah.
remember maybe 20 years ago or something at this point, I remember asking people, what if computers got so complex that any individual person couldn't understand it? And they said, well, then we'd have specialists and we'd have people to fill in the gaps and we'd still have that knowledge somewhere and AI will always exist to help us. So I think my general take is AI is similar to Stack Overflow that you mentioned in that you can go to another resource and ask them for help, just like how you could walk over to a coworker, tap them on the shoulder, and get the answer to any of your questions you're going to have as a new hire. But that doesn't mean you
Yeah.
should do it. So, yeah, I think it's about responsibly using the tool and then augmenting your learning with it. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I do think that it's hard because I feel like, especially as a junior developer, that's when you're really learning all the foundations. And I feel like being able to really learn the foundations and then using AI as a tool to help you expedite once you understand the foundation solidly. I think the question is like, yeah, what's the right balance of using AI to help you learn the foundations?
yeah,
And I think it probably means something different for everyone. So,
it probably
yeah.
does. And given that I haven't been a junior developer for a while, I feel like everything I'm using AI for now is the stuff I didn't want to do. It's like you said, the things that were annoying that I wanted to do less of. So in my mind, it's like a really smart autocomplete at this point. And I actually equate it a little bit to that for some people. It's like who texts nowadays or sends any message without using the suggestions that pop up above your phone's keyboard? Probably everyone's using those and can expect that when you type what, it's going to say, "Are you doing today?" or something like that. And and then there are times when you know not to use it. So yeah, I think it's applying when it matters and skipping it when it doesn't. This
Yeah.
leads me to my next kind of broad question here, and you touched on this a little bit, but where do you see AI technology development 10 years from now? Not just, next year, let's say Copilot extensions have been great, people are using it, but that's natural
Mhm.
language and everything. What are we doing, yeah, 5 years, 10 years from now? What's the long-term vision?
I I honestly, I don't wish I had a better answer to this. I feel like because it's funny in the sense that I think that AI has made my morphing, like has warped my sense of time
Hmm.
in that I think the progression of AI has honestly been just pretty insane. Like I just think about, was it like 2019 when GPT, was it 1 came out? And I think look at where we are now and just even the last couple of years from GPT-3 to where we are with GPT 4.0. And so I feel like even my sense of like time, if I'm like, oh, I think this will happen in 10 years, I'm like, is this going to happen in like 2 years,
Yeah.
and then I don't even know what's possible in 10 years. So, um, I do think these questions of like, your skill set and us having to adapt will just like change so much. Um, and so I'm gonna have to marinate on that one a little bit. I just think that like the rate of change is very insane. And I think us having to think a little very intentionally about what is the work we do, when do we use AI, how do we not abuse it, how do we not over rely on it, what is that right mix of skill set, I think is going to become a lot more blurry because I think that a lot of those skill sets will overlap more and more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny you mentioned the rapid growth. I remember probably late 90s, I got some like, it looked like a long pencil. It was a microphone. And I don't know what software it was, Microsoft Word, maybe some add on thing that said, hey, we can transcribe your voice. It'll be like, you'll never have to use a keyboard again. And this is when computers are still relatively new to households. And it was terrible. It didn't work. It was a garbage product. And yet now I could literally take probably any phone from any friend I see and say something like, remind me to do something, and it'll correct any mistakes, hesitation, stuttering, etc. That's something that we just never would have expected. And okay, cool, that's for a personal assistant. But yeah, what happens when you are saying to Docker, just write the Docker file for me. Just go deploy this on
Yeah.
Docker Hub, go pull in these images, and it does it. And yeah, then what are we focusing on and what are we doing? So I get when you say that this might be the hyper growth that we're seeing, such that it's hard to predict 5 years from now. And
Yeah.
yeah, I wonder what we'll be doing and how we'll be doing it. And who knows how it'll change. So
I think that yeah, I think that's why I feel like it's almost to a point where I feel like we have to be able to, I think, envision even a couple years out though, and really try to be really intentional of like, instead of letting the technology, like instead of letting AI develop and us then ask ourselves, well, what does it mean to be like an engineer or developer or like an artist or a writer or all these other professions? I think it's better for us to be able to be really intentional to find that right now and use AI to like I feel like it's just like AI is moving so fast, it's easy to be reactive to these things versus trying to define our principles and we're like what is the world that we want to create and then moving towards that. Yeah.
Well, and the I don't know if you've heard of the tragedy of the commons, but I feel like every individual person is trying to almost right now figure out how is AI working for them. And whether it means as a developer, am I using something like Copilot, or it means if you're on the outside of this, am I using it for content writing, ideation, anything like that? At some point, you have enough individual agents in the system where there is no collective, there is no horizontal team, like you mentioned earlier, saying, hey, we're not being responsible with this. But by the time that's happened, the damage could be done. Do you
Yeah.
see something like that happening here where things are moving so fast that there is no way to organize it, to tame it?
I think that's my biggest fear is I definitely feel like with AI and technology, it's kind of like putting toothpaste back in the tube. Like once it's all out, it's going to be really hard to be able to. And I think that's why policy is like trying to catch up. But I actually think, again, besides people in policy regulators, I actually think the strongest voice are people like you as customers and consumers of these products, right? If you being able to define because I think as even as I think about the product manager on my side, right? As Copilot, I talk to users like you, Adam, and like customers and be like, what are the features you want?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it circumvents on you actually being really specific of like, well, what do I want the role of what do I want my role to be in life? What would be my dream ideal developer life? And how do the tools around me then, support that? And then as a PM, I build towards that future
Yeah.
versus you relying on me as a PM to be like, okay, just build these products because we're just going to optimize for profit. I think that's just, and I try, that's why I try to remember like as a user and as customers, you actually have so much more power than sometimes it feels like we're very beholden to these like large tech companies and how AI is being developed. But at the end of the day, you are the consumers and you guys are the people making the decisions of like which product wins out, right? So
Yeah. I see a tug of war there because I think there is a mix of those things. There's a mix of customer research impacting the product and then the product team impacting people's workflows. So it was like
yeah,
Apple, I'm assuming, probably didn't necessarily ask a ton of people, hey, do you want a phone with no buttons? And if they had,
yeah,
it's like the Henry Ford expression. If I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses instead of a
that's true.
car. So I don't know for sure that I don't know who has more power in that equation. But with that said, I want to ask you a question going back a little bit, which is you said you do user research, you ask people. I don't want you to violate an NDA or anything, but what's the sort of general sentiment you get when you talk to average developers? What are they looking for? What are the things that they say they want?
I would say right now, I think the biggest question, and I feel like it's more of an understanding of why someone would use GitHub Copilot versus something like ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest things we ask are some flavors of customization and context, which
Yeah.
is like, I don't want to talk to like a generalized AI assistant. I want to talk to an AI assistant who knows my code base in GitHub, who knows my understanding of what makes good code versus bad code, my best practices, my knowledge. And if you think about this expanding to like a team or a business, everyone has their own customized context. And so I think a lot of it is like, how do we improve what seems like quality, but really is just content that's more personalized to your context and your domain.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's really the biggest flavors of asks that we get. Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
on a sort of broader note, maybe a level separate from this, are they saying things like, I want to be faster at my job. I want to not have to write unit tests or something. Are they ever talking about some specific areas?
I think we do measure a lot of those metrics of like, and it's also not just like, are you more efficient? It's like, are you more fulfilled? And I
Mm,
can send you like, do you feel happier with how you spend your day? As an engineer, do you feel like you're spending less time on like tasks that you don't want to do, kind of what I talk like operational things or things like that? And so we do measure a lot of those like fulfillment or satisfaction metrics to really understand at the end of the day, our developers here. I think that sounds very generalized. But for us, it's
mm,
like not just about efficiency. It's like at the end of the day, I always feel like efficiency is a little bit of a product con because it's like, am I just being more efficient so I can do more work? And I think that's not really the goal, really, is like, are you being more efficient so again, you can things with your time that you actually find more fulfilling?
Yeah, I love that question. Are you more fulfilled as a developer? And it's those kind of qualitative metrics that are really hard to analyze because it means different things for different people. But at
Yeah.
the end, as you were asking those questions, I was like, I am pretty happy to be using Copilot. It does save me time. And every once in a while, I type a comment for what I'm about to do. I press enter, and it was like, oh, there's the function I would have written had I even thought
Yeah.
about it for longer than just writing a comment. So um, I want to transition a little bit here because the last part you mentioned is
One question, Adam, and I would love to hear, do you feel more fulfilled as a developer using Copilot? And I guess what does fulfillment mean for you?
fulfillment as a developer. That's kind of tough. I think here's what it means to me. I want to do work that is interesting to me, and I'd like to feel like I'm progressing as I'm doing that work. So not have something take 3 months. And I think it's those two things that sum up fulfillment. So for example, I do a lot of what I would call grunt work, which
Mm.
if I were in a big company, there would be a mix of different level people working there. And this is probably something more junior developers would be doing. But because typically I'm working on a 1 or 2 person team, it's not easy to divide the work in that way. So if AI could take some of that off of my shoulders, I think that would be great. It's not necessarily doing that yet, but I'd love for that to happen. And then what else plays into fulfillment? Trying to think. I guess it'd be easier if I had a released product right now and I were iterating on it and had AI to help me with that. But unfortunately, it was like I was working in the corporate world for the last 3 years and only just started using AI outside of that now. So hard for me to comment more than that.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it's cool. It's just cool to hear to me. Like you said, fulfillment means something very different for everyone. So it's always interesting to hear. So yeah.
yeah. And I'll have to think about that some more too as I continue to use AI. One of the things that I did, I got the monthly Copilot subscription because I thought, oh, I want to try other companies' products. But a combination of sort of it's working well enough and I'm a little bit lazy about it and I'm not sure which other products I would use have just led me sticking to it and paying more per month than I should be. So um anyway, that thing that you mentioned, it's almost a product con for something to be too efficient here. Am I doing more work? This is a great segue into one of the other topics we wanted to talk about, which was tech, mental health, burnout. Um, and there has been a general trend across pretty much every industry of efficiency has risen over the last 200 years, and yet our hours haven't really terribly changed too much. And I don't know
Yeah.
if they've tracked this for mental health as well. Technology is relatively new as a field that people could go into and get a degree in. But you've said that you used to be very career oriented and that that's starting to change. So I want to just kind of leave it at that, not even really ask a very specific question, but what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I would say there's like a long story or short story version of this. I'm trying to figure out how I would start this, but I would say just growing up in the environment. So I grew up in the Bay Area.
Hmm.
So if you think about it, like peak Silicon Valley, immigrant parents, and I think a lot of that culture is very centered around like achievement. And so I think for a very long time, my sense of self identity was really wrapped around achievement. And I think it started with like things you do in school to, what school you went to. And then when you went to a school, then what became my job, right? And basically, I think that, when I joined the Ethics Society team, that was actually probably a really good wake up call for me because at the time, that was kind of like my dream job. It was this, I think my ultimate pinnacle was always to get to this point where I could find a job that was like it paid, but also like I felt super fulfilled and I felt passionate. I loved my coworkers. Um, and it was amazing for a few years. But basically, I think that my identity became very, very singular. Like I remember thinking through like people would ask me like like who are you, like what do you do, and the first thing I would say is like, oh, I work on this ethics team at Microsoft. And like it was just one of those like it was such a salient part of my identity. And I think when the layoff happened, it was like a really big reckoning for me of like what does it mean for your identity to one be so singular. I think that there's a really good book called The Good Enough Job where it talks about how sometimes the happiest and most resilient people just have really multiple sets of identities,
Mm.
and like you're not just a person that works at GitHub. You are a wife, you are a daughter, you are a friend, you are a snowboarder, you are a cook. Like the more pillars you have of identity, when one falls, you have a lot to fall back on. And I really realized at that point that I really didn't have much other ones to fall back on.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think that's kind of been my focus now, which is when I'm less career oriented, it's more like I'm by saying no to just investing all my time and energy in my job, I think I'm saying yes to making time for other things in my life. And so, yeah.
I see. Okay. So I want to jump back to something in the middle there. You said Bay Area when you were growing up, but then you mentioned that people ask, who are you? What do you do? And it jumps to, okay, here's what I do for a living. Uh, we both live in the Seattle area for viewers,
Yeah.
and I feel like that's part of the culture here. I think it is so common. We're in this tech bubble that if you meet someone new, it's where do you work? And the answer is usually one of about five things, and then that's it. And then you ask, okay, are you a dev? Are you a PM there? And the conversation sort of progresses in almost a predictable way. And yet in
Yes.
other parts of the world, it doesn't necessarily play out that way. You have
Yeah.
more of the other identities that you mentioned that come in, and someone might say, oh, I'm a snowboarder, instead of here's
Mhm.
where I work. So you said, I want to invest time in other aspects. Do you feel like that's helped you carve out the other Sharon identities that now exist?
I do. And actually, it's kind of been a year in the making, but even my partner, he commented on the other day. He's like, it's kind of crazy how because like something will bother me at like something I'll say like, oh, this thing happened at work. I'm like, that's fine. And I'll just kind of go about my day. And he's like, you've changed a lot because I think something like that would have really affected me in the past. So it was like I think it was not like a conscious like I'm gonna like by next month I'm going to like change, but I think by slowly diverting my time by something coming up at 7 p.m. and I'm like, you know what? It can wait till tomorrow. It's nothing's gonna be on fire if I don't address it right now. I'm gonna go out and hang out with my friends. It's gonna be fine. Like by doing repetitive acts of that, I've actually found myself just less and less identifying with my job. It's still something that, I want to do a great job in. But if someone asks me like, who is Sharon? What do you do? Or like, what do you like to do? I would actually say my job realistically is probably like fifth or like it's a lot lower on when I would introduce myself than it used to be. So and I think it means something different for everyone. I think that's why I love the title, the good enough job,
Mhm.
because for some people, they might want their job to be much more prominent of their identity, and that's totally fine. I think it should be a really conscious decision. And I think for me, it was just like subconscious because of how I grew up, and then realizing that that just wasn't serving me personally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's what I kind of call mental or cultural programming that is so hard to escape. It's like if you come from a family where they pat you on the back when you get good grades or when you do something impressive, then you're much more likely to pursue those things because that's kind of all you really care about as a kid, right? Is the sort of
Yeah.
validation and approval of some of the people around you. And then you get into that cycle. And I find that, as you mentioned here, it's not like you sat down and said, okay, in the next month, I'm going to do this. It's these small ways of steering yourself toward an outcome that, yeah, eventually happens and you start seeing in these healthy ways. And I think it could come with as small as a language change and as large as a plan that you devote yourself to over the course of a year or something like that. So I think
Totally.
that's really cool. I want to now get a little bit more specific with this. So you have said that working for these companies, that it's almost like capitalism is counter to mental health at these companies.
Yeah.
I'm probably paraphrasing a little bit there,
Mhm.
but can you expand on that?
I just think that similar with like again, I think intentionality everywhere in your life is just really important. And I think at work, right? A in a corporate world, the more you can produce as output, the better.
Hmm.
And the more you let it, the more it will allow you to.
Yeah.
So like I think that was like one of I think the advice I got from a really early mentor was just he was just like just FYI, like your to-do list at work will never end.
Yep.
Like the more you finish it, the more people will give you. They're like, great. That's like that's let me just let's have you do more, right? And so you have to really set that boundary. And I think that's why when I say capitalism is just like antithesis in the sense of like it will just keep having a hunger appetite in terms of wanting to maximize output, wanting to produce more output. And so there's no really sense of, I think, sustainability in
Yeah.
capitalism. Like in the end, if like you're not growing, if you're not growing in terms of profit, it's seen as like a bad thing, right? Um, and I think that there's so many seasons of us as humans, right, where maybe we're like not growing on the outside, but we're actually doing a lot of inner work on the inside. And so I think that's why I feel like I've been more intentional about like I've kind of in some ways like surrendering has been kind of I think a release of like I know I'll never be able to produce the maximum output forever because I'm just not a machine. And so what do I want to give like today? And like what are my priorities today? And so that's kind of really how I try to look at my life now. So
Yeah, I think that intentionality is what I've read. I ended up reading a lot of different self-help books, and I think the most important thing to take from any of those is you are making decisions at every point of every day by whatever action you choose to do, because there's a practically infinite number of other actions you could have done and didn't do. And
yeah.
on the whole, it doesn't matter, which sandwich you choose for lunch. But when it comes to something like, I want to put in an extra 3 hours of work per day, or yeah, how do you spend your time that way? I think it really matters. Um,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have
And I
been,
would say
oh,
something I'll add at it, like I haven't never done this, but it was actually really good actually because I'm personally also like I think part of the whole immigrant thing, I'm a people pleaser. So it's also really hard. That is something I've battled. Someone's like, "Hey Sharon, can you do this at work?" It's hard for me to say no. But I haven't done this personally. But like for anyone that struggles with this, I had a friend who actually had like a no journal.
mhm.
And she would literally write down in this journal every time she said no to something. Like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. But then under the no, she would say, I say no to this. What can I now say yes to?
I see.
And
Yeah.
I think it helps you reprogram your brain a little bit. Um, because I do think when I was laid off, I had a couple months where I wasn't working.
Hmm.
And it was truly kind of mind blowing for me because I used to have like the Sunday scaries a little bit. And I'm like, oh, it's like Monday's going to be work. And I remember I woke up that first Monday after getting laid off and I was like, oh my gosh, Monday is just like another Saturday. I was like, and then I wake up again. I'm like, Tuesday is also another Saturday. And I'm like, well, how do I want to spend my day today? And it really showed me like how much time is in a week and how much I was using my week as in like I would basically the entire week I'd be like either at work or just kind of decompressing from work and then I would have like some slivers of the weekend where I'm kind of recharging versus it really showed me like how much I'm putting into work every day and being really intentional about that and saying like okay if I'm going to say no to this 5 o'clock meeting what am I saying yes to and what does that offer me so yeah.
Yeah. I it's like there's this, monster under your bed all the time that you just can't avoid. It's there, you're thinking about it, it stops you from going to sleep, it produces anxiety. And yet these realizations are something that probably need to be applied to practically everybody around us, right? Like we're not alone in the tech industry, and a lot of these top level jobs have these anxiety cycles. I've heard Sunday scaries from a lot of different people, and and I think part of this has to do with the country culture that we have in the US, which is generally not a ton of vacation time, not a lot of focus outside of work. And it's not as bad as other countries that maybe are working, 12 hours a day, but it's not helpful for us. What is some simple advice someone could apply if they feel like what you're saying resonates with them and they're like, oh yeah, I am focused on work. This is the first thing that comes to mind when I share who I am to somebody new. And I do want to achieve results more and more. What's the first step they can take to end that?
I would say so one thing that I think I forgot, it's a quote somewhere was like pay attention to what you pay attention to.
Hmm.
Uh, and so I think just notice like what are things outside of your work or what are things actually I think going back to your childhood is a great example because I think that's when you're kind of the most pure in terms of your interests and think a little bit about like what would you like to do.
Yeah.
And I think another maybe even taking my layoff example is like imagine you didn't have to go to work for like for months. What would you do with your time? What would you like to do? And like we talked about, start doing those like little actions of like, okay, today I'm going to, and I think there's that whole thing of like, does willpower come before the action or after? And I was like, just set up the action And as you start doing those things, you're going to enjoy them, and naturally you will start to, I think, maybe prioritize those over work. And like I was saying, I also don't want to emphasize that sometimes I also think there's like this cultural norm of like if you spend too much time at work, you're like broken. I don't necessarily think that's true. Like if you actually find a lot of fulfillment at work, then that's great. I think that for me personally, I just realized I was putting a lot of my energy and effort into something that's ultimately run by or corporation, and where those incentives are sometimes misaligned.
Yeah.
But if, for example, you're trying to build a project, you're trying to build a startup that you're super passionate about, I think it's totally valid if you're like, no, I actually do want to dedicate all of my time to work. It's what I find most fulfilling. That's totally fine too. It's just like you have to define that for yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that. And I wanted to ask you, if it wasn't for tech, what do you think you would be doing?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I daydream a lot. I think it would be so many. I think I always loved like creating things. I used to write a lot as a kid. So I think it'd be a mix of like writing, teaching. I thought about like opening up a coffee shop. That would be like a big dream of mine, but it'd be more like a salon thing where like creatives can like gather, and I'd be like the old grandma that's like feeding everyone so that people can come together. So there's like all these dreams I have. And my eventual goal is like I do think I don't know. I do really hope that there is like a healthier version of what tech looks
Hmm.
like sometimes I think about this like relentless pursuit of like growth, and I'm not sure why we need it. It's like, do we need profit to maximize every single quarter? Like if it's slower one quarter, but it has the time for the team to like think more creatively, like is that actually more beneficial? And um yeah,
Yeah.
I would love to be able to like influence that culture some way. I just don't really know how yet. Yeah.
It's tough because it's a very enmeshed culture, and there are a lot of different incentives, and a lot of these companies that we're sort of implicitly talking about are publicly traded and are now at the behest of shareholders and the general public. So, um, I want to back up to, let me think about this, the coffee shop, the salon.
So many things.
Oh, yeah, I remember what it was. So, one of the things that came about when people were talking about AI maybe a year or two ago was, okay, what happens when it has, they were being very doom and gloom about this. What happens when it has consumed all of our jobs and we don't have anything to do? And people started talking about, okay, there could be a universal basic income where we're basically paying people to have the ability to get by, to pay rent, to
Mhm.
get groceries, to live. Um, in that case, where we're kind of merging the topics here of AI and your dream to start up a salon/coffee shop, do you think you would do that? Do you think you would pursue it, or do you think it'd be hard to get away from that sort of itch to be still productive, even though you're starting to detach from it?
I feel like that's a good question. I do think there's like this sense of like, I think when I talked a lot about creation, I do think I find a lot of fulfillment in like creating, and like doing something that involves creating something that didn't exist
Yeah,
before, whether that be a piece of writing, a piece of art, or whatever. And when I think about the salon idea, it was the idea of like, how do you basically bring about an idea that maybe wouldn't have existed if these people didn't gather in the same room? So I think that itch would never truly go away. And I think that's when people say, like, what would you do when you retired? Like, retired. I don't think I would just like there's some people who are like, I would just like chill every day. Like I would travel and just like chill. And I think for me, I would think I would get bored. Like I think I
yeah.
would need to like go back to creating something, interacting with people. And so that's kind of my taste is like I think I would still go back to doing something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of, you're at the intersection of, you work career oriented, you're doing well at your job, and then also being creative. And I feel like there's this, not antsiness, I think that's the wrong way to describe it, but an itch to do more, to produce. And I feel that same itch myself. Like there's a lot of creative stuff I want to do, and if these projects all get done, I'll just replace them with a bunch of other projects.
Yeah.
And I wonder, do I have, when you kept saying we have this relentless need for growth, it reminded me there was a video just called, I think, Line Goes Up, which was talking about cryptocurrencies and NFTs, and how we have this need to just to see numbers go up and to get progress and have companies grow. And I wonder, do I have that embedded in me somehow? And that's what's driving me, and that some amount of that is healthy and too much of that is unhealthy. So
Totally.
Yeah.
I feel that because I think I talked to my partner. He doesn't feel the same like itch of like creation, I would say. Like he is much more of like a relaxing, chill kind of person. Um, but but yeah, I think that maybe it's also just like wanting to create at the helm of like what I want to create. I
Hmm.
think also when you're creating at a corporate setting, it's you take a lot of soul out of creation sometimes, right? And so many ideas are things that you just kind of mull around for a long time. And it doesn't necessarily look like you're creating, but you could be going on a walk and you're just thinking about this idea over and over and over again, right? And so I think that's the freedom I want to have is like if I actually had a lot more mental space to think about these different ideas, like what would actually be created as a result of that. Yeah.
Yeah. If only we could see the parallel timelines that, jut out from any decision we've made. The Sharon who went to GitHub and the Sharon who just started up the coffee shop immediately, which one is
Right.
happier and what were the sacrifices that had to be made? Maybe that's
Yeah.
something AI can do for us once it's gotten the context close enough. We just feed in our lives and we say, pick the future that's better for me.
I feel like it would break us in some ways in the sense of like we would just be like completely in analysis paralysis of like how everything. But yeah, I totally agree.
Well,
So
I asked a few people this hypothetical a long time ago. Imagine there was a device where you could press a button and it just printed out a little sheet of paper with the food you would enjoy the most at that particular moment, just through magic.
mm,
Who knows how this works exactly? And I said to people, would you use it? And some people said, no, like I need the free will of having chosen my meal and that's what makes it good to me. And I thought for me, it's like, well, if somehow some magic knows what I want, why would I not at least consider that into my own thought process? So I think that's almost what's happening with AI to some extent is we have a thought process, we have some general questions, and we ask something to guide us through that or to help us. Um, anyway, I'm not actually going anywhere with that. I just
I love this thought experiment. As you're talking, like I'm like, would I use it? I think I would be the same thing. I think I'd want to know. I might not want it to dictate exactly what I do, but I think I would want it as like a point of like data of like what I would consider for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's what you touched on there is it's almost like what you have to do. If again, magic knows that this is what you want best and you every time you press this button you're like, "Now I have to go get this thing." And sure, it'll make me the happiest, but what is my life now? I'm
Yeah,
essentially an extension of a machine that, I
yeah,
take in this input and provide an output. Um
totally.
yeah, I want to jump back a bit to a quote that you said a while ago, actually two quotes. One is you said you don't think that the tech industry is sustainable in its current form. Um, what did you mean by that? Do you want to give some background? Do you still feel this way?
In the sense of, I think a lot of people I talk to in the tech industry, and I would love to hear your thoughts, Adam, actually, because I feel like you've done a good, I'd love to, because I feel like you've bounced from corporate to non-corporate to back to corporate, et cetera. But I feel like I hear a lot of friends who just are super burnt out. Um, and not really knowing how to sustain growth at a tech company, as I've mentioned, because it's not, I think it's meant for a different kind of, it's not meant for any kind of sustaining. So I think that's one thing. Um, so I think there's that. I think I've also talked to a lot of mentors in like higher points of leadership. And I think they've helped me really see I think the sacrifices they've had to make in the sense of they always tell me like, hey, like I think sometimes when you're working, it's your goal is to like get promoted and kind of
Hmm.
grow up the ladder. But they're like every time you go up a ladder, you're making a sacrifice. So be really conscious of what that means. Of or do you really want to get promoted to that next level? It probably is going to mean a different set of responsibilities. It's going to mean a different set of time investment, a different set of work-life balance, and what are you willing to commit to? Um,
Yeah, and
and so yeah.
I was gonna say those jump starts pretty small. When you go from a junior level 1 to a junior level 2, it really is just a promotion. It's pretty minimal. But then yeah, at some point you get to a now I'm leading a 50-person team instead of a 10-person team, which is a drastically different amount of input required from you. So
Super different.
yeah,
Yeah.
to answer your question of what are my thoughts on this, this is overkill, and this sounds like a giant company made me do this, but I just came up with this on my own, which is every Monday I look through a set of tenets that I wrote for myself, and they're generally
Mm,
like 3 to 5 things, principles I want to uphold, or some quality I want to maintain. And the one that I think is the key tenet for the entire endeavor I'm doing right now is sustainability in terms of could I do this for, let's say, 10 or 20 years? You mentioned that after you'd been laid off, that Monday felt like another Saturday and Wednesday felt like another Saturday. And I feel like if you think about what goals you have and you plan a timeline for them, let's say it's, start up this coffee shop. Let's say I gave you the funds and the time to do this. It probably wouldn't take you longer than about 3 to 5 years for it to be, at its peak successfulness for one location. Maybe then you expand it to more, I don't know, but it's not going to take you 50 years to do that. And yet you reasonably have at least 50 more years to live. So what do you do with the next 45 years after that, or the next, 20? And that's what is kind of trying to guide my next however long portion of time, which is, can I be sustainable? Can I do this? And I think the mix for me is sort of like what you mentioned earlier about the satisfaction you get from your job, liking your coworkers. In my case, that's why I'm on stream. I like having an audience. I like talking to people. I like interacting throughout the day, and yet having the creative freedom to do what I want to do in terms of, okay, I want to make a game now. I'll go set out 6 months and I'll make this game. So if that requires, like I said, the time and the money to do that, and I've worked now for long enough where I feel like I've carved out some space for myself. So I don't think this is scalable to just anybody. But I think that if people could find jobs that fit those qualities that they have, and it's a non-trivial thing to do. The jobs are out there, but how do you find them? How do you vet them? That there probably would be a higher net happiness in the world. And it's just, how do you solve that problem? How do you do job matchmaking correctly there?
Yeah, I think so. And I do think tech is kind of in this like ultra unsustainable point because of like the job market is really tough right now,
Yeah.
right? I'm not going to deny. And so I do think everyone's kind of in this state of fear and anxiety. So there's kind of this like even more overwork happening where it's like, well, I don't, want to get laid off. I want to make sure that I'm not replaceable. And there's a lot of people like who are on visas and like this, like losing their job could have a lot of consequences. So I've seen cycles just recently in the last few years. I think tech now is I think is very different from where it was like I think like 10 years ago when I started my career. And I'm sure it'll go through another wave recently. I just feel like right now it just feels like in this ultra unsustainable point.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of that is post-pandemic. There was hyper growth, and now we're finally in this cooling off period. And for a lot of people who started their career in the last, let's say, 5, 6 years, they just it was just this line goes up thing, and they just thought, oh, I can predict that it's going to just keep rising. So now there's this, yeah. I want to ask you before I'm going to cover the second quote. Do you remember what this second quote is that you said to me a while ago that I want to bring up now, just based on
I
this?
do not.
You what? You
I
don't?
do, yeah.
Okay, so you had said, and I'm going to read this here. PM1, so product manager one or program manager one back then, is the best level to be at. So I wanted to ask you, let's say you were offered a position, GitHub, Microsoft, they come to you and they say, you can be it. You can be a PM1. You can be a PM1 the rest of your career. Do you think now that you've been at the level you're at that you would enjoy it? Do you think you would take that opportunity?
Ooh, good question. I would seriously consider it. I think I was actually talking to my partner where while I think it for me would be this like trade-off between like how much more like mental bandwidth I would get if I were to increase my level, how much more time I would get. Because I do think that growing as an experienced PM, I think I would be able to do a PM1 job in like less time
Yeah.
and like effort. Um, while like what is the pay difference and like what does that look like to me? And how does that financially matter? Um, so it's not off the table, I would say. I would really consider it because I think as I've grown in my career, as I mentioned, I was super career focused. So I did grow very quickly without really realizing that. And now that I'm where I'm at, I look at my boss's job and I think really critically of like, because people always say like, as you grow, like just look at your boss. That's probably going to be the direction that you're going to head
Yeah. Yeah.
towards. And I think really critically, like, would I want her job? And I see a lot of sacrifices that she makes. She's online late at night. She has to deal with a whole set of politics and things that I don't have to. And so I always think like, yeah, and yeah, I'm sure she's getting paid much more, but I'm like, is that the trade-off I want? And so I think I would make the same one also going down. So not off the table. I would say very, very much something of consideration.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know, it's funny. You mentioned mental bandwidth, time, and pay. What you didn't mention is fulfillment. Do you feel like you would be able to do the work for, let's say, 2 years now that you'd be down leveling yourself by quite a lot? Would that get to you at all?
That's a good question. But I feel like it's interesting because it's so much more of like how much I don't necessarily define my self-fulfillment from my
Okay.
job
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think like, but I would say I do think that like in the sense that I'm still doing the same role. If you were like, would you want to become an engineer? I think that would be really different
Yeah.
because I think I find the task of an engineer a little bit different from where I feel fulfillment versus I think as a PM, there's a lot of like communication, bringing people together. So I think I would be still doing those things, which is why I didn't think about it as much. But I could see how like the lack of agency would get to me, I would say. I do think as a more senior PM, you have a lot more say of like this is how I think it should be versus the more junior one, you're kind of more taking direction and just executing. So going from that to like a straight executor, yeah, maybe I would get like a little bit bored.
Yeah, well,
So
and I don't mean to say like that will definitely happen, but I think it would be tough for me for sure. As you were
yeah,
talking, I remembered a movie it had Robert De Niro in it, and he had like a ton of company experience in this movie. I don't remember what it was called. And he
yeah,
had to go back and work as like an entry level employee. And it was very much like an old fashioned, like, I'm going to work super hard and make it back to the top. I wondered as you were answering that, oh, I'm a PM1, I wouldn't have as much agency. If people would also look at you like a PM1, if that makes sense, and treat it as like, well, she doesn't have the experience. That's why she's that level right now. And that might start getting on your nerves. But anyway, this is a wild hypothetical that we don't need to.
it's actually really interesting because I have a friend at Facebook, and I don't know if that's still the case, but when we were at Microsoft, it's your level is very much marketed. Like it's like PM1,
Yep.
PM2,
Yep. Yep.
PM3, senior, right? But I think at Facebook, unless you're like a director, everyone is just PM. So they hide
Mm,
the level just so that when you're going, because people would actually change their posture for you to you in conversations of like, oh, you're a principal, let me talk to you in that way, but you're a PM1, let me talk to you that way. And they basically remove that whole level. And so that would be very interesting to me of like, what if everyone is basically a PM unless you're like your director level and like that your title has less of how you're being treated.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, I never watched Undercover Boss, but I imagine there were some times where the CEO of the company or whatever is probably treated terribly because they just assume, oh, you're just some other random person here.
Exactly. But I don't know. I think a big part of that also, I think another dimension I didn't talk about, Adam, going back to the when you say no, what do you say yes to?
Hmm.
I kind of always joke because like sometimes in my personal life, it's like such a mess. Like I think people think that because I'm so organized at work, because as a PM, you're like creating plans and like specs, that you're pretty organized in your personal life. My personal life is not. Like sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have this bill and I need to and like I'm like, oh my God. And so it's kind of chaotic. And I always joke it's because like I put all of my PM energy in like 40 hours. I don't have like the energy to PM the rest of my life. Like I just want to chill. So sometimes I think like, oh, maybe if I said no to like putting that much PM energy at work, maybe I would actually have more bandwidth to do this, like maybe in a volunteer opportunity or a nonprofit or my personal life. And so maybe also evaluating what I would say yes to as a result.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and we have a limited pool of energy. So I feel like maybe, you know, I've heard of all sorts of different fatigue. There's compassion fatigue where you can't just keep feeling sad or sorry for other people or even relate to them if it just happens so much. And then there's just literal fatigue, which is you're out of energy. So yeah, after you
Yes.
work, it's hard. I couldn't help but laugh as you were telling me that because you kind of touched on it at the beginning. You said, have I cleaned up my room enough?" But
Yeah,
I did.
literally. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it was funny because I feel like it was even with Adam. We were with a group of friends, and I think they were super surprised to find that like how I am in my personal life is just not who I am at work. I think that people think who I am at work is very different, and it was just funny because yeah, I think
Yeah, well,
yeah.
it's a different take on the multiple personalities or multiple identities bit, excuse me, not personalities. Yeah, so you
Mhm.
identify as an organized person at work and an unorganized person, I guess, at home. Um,
Yeah.
well, look, it's been about an hour. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your thoughts on all this. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we leave?
No, I just want to say thanks, Adam. It was love talking. This is super fun. I really enjoyed it.
Good, I'm glad. Yeah,
Yeah,
I did too.
I didn't see the comments, but I don't know if anyone has any follow-up comments. I think Adam, you have my email, but if you don't, I'm happy and I'm happy to answer any questions like offline as
Yeah,
well.
sure.
So
And let me check really fast here because I put a couple of your links that I asked for ahead of time. Yeah, you gave me your LinkedIn and your personal site. If people wanted to contact you, how would you prefer that they do it?
yeah, you can contact me. Should I just so my email is just Sharon Lo, SharonLo at github.com. So if you have any questions around Copilot or just in general, I'm happy to chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for your time. I hope you have a good rest of your day and a good weekend.
Thanks, Adam. All right,
Bye,
bye.
Sharon. All right. You know the drill, everybody. Clap for Sharon. Thank you for being on the show, Sharon. Yeah, what did everybody think? What do you did I ask all the questions people wanted me to ask? The only people I had solicited some questions ahead of time, and I think it was just one person who'd responded, and I tried to incorporate them. They were sort of leading questions on Discord, and I tried to make them slightly less leading in this interview. Um, yeah, hang on, wait, just message me. Thank you too. By the way, I'll just share this. Chat is chatting about this right now. There. Okay. Yeah, so I think this has been great. I mentioned this earlier, but there's the interview list, of course, and this is now a past interview, as sad as it is to say that. So I'm gonna put this down here. Yeah, but that was it. Those are the people I had planned for interviews so far, and now I have more people I want to reach out to, and I'll write myself a note. Although the scheduling is gonna be a little bit tough, but I just mentioned this earlier. If you've got someone in mind that you want to refer to me, and you just think they've got something interesting to talk about, a subject, Sharon and I. We know each other in real life. And when I asked her, hey, would you want to be on the show? I said, what would you want to talk about? And mental health and tech and just the industry in general was like the top thing because she works at GitHub, because she works on Copilot, I thought, okay, this will also have a lot of relevance for people in chat. So I wanted to focus on that for a while too. But reach out to more interview people. Yeah. I want to say candidates, but it just sounds very formal. Can you link a personal site? So the sites are in this document. I will just share them both in chat because I mean, she did share them for people to have. This is not like me doxing her or something like that. Here are her sites. Yeah. That has to start my fault. I definitely I want to go back and read chat for sure. And I mean, if I just scroll up really fast, when did? Yeah, I probably should have. I should have mentioned. But yeah, there was quite a lot going on. You don't have to answer this now, but what led to this interview? I think this was before I even had started streaming again. And I just said to Sharon, like, would you be interested in an interview? She's like, yeah, sure. She really, she was very energetic about even the idea. And I think if I were her, I would have been like, why are you doing this? Like, what do you hope to gain out of it? She was like, yep, I'll do it. Okay, hang on one second. She just asked, did you want me to stay on? You didn't have to stay on. Here's. Oh, hang on one sec. One sec. Want to make sure. Copy and put this over here. You want to read it later. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm just going to super quick look through this just for the red messages. Accidentally mentoring every conversation. I want to know what this is in response to. 245. Yeah. Oh, hang on one sec. I got to do one other thing. Engage privacy mode. And hey, Prometheus over on YouTube. Okay. Sorry. There. I can turn off privacy mode now. Are most of my viewers coders? I don't actually know. I would probably say yes. Yeah. Yeah, okay. I just wanted to scroll through really fast. Yeah, so good choice. think she might be a great manager. I'm not positive if she manages people or is just a like a lead product manager, which are two different things for sure. But yeah, I don't recall. Yeah, yeah, CS student. I think in general that's the same sort of bucket. Actually stayed to get everything. Yeah, yeah, and I think part of it is I am probably becoming a slightly better interviewer as I do this, and then also I'm figuring out what we actually want to talk about. I think having a topic is really important. And with the first couple of interviews I did, it was more like, hey, I'm just going to talk to you about some stuff that I know you're into, and we'll just see where it goes. Yeah. Let me write that down too. Interview learning, really good to have a topic set up or 2 to 3 topics. Easier to advertise too. And then put the Sharon interview online. Same with the Mel interview. Okay, yeah, I am getting it going. I think I don't want to switch back into game dev right now. Any game devs in the interview list? Yes, actually, but I think so. Windy Beard was one of the game devs I wanted to interview, although he's been very busy lately, and he said he's going to take just a break from kind of everything, but maybe early next year or something like that. It can be good to have a few bullet points beforehand, and then just let it grow from there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, let me go find someone to raid. Who is online? Man, my following list is just grown and grown and grown. Okay, you know what? Spherephoria like seems to default raid us all the time. I'm gonna raid it. How fast do I type? Moderately fast. I have a video, or was it that one? Yeah. I have a video there that tells a tiny bit more into that without just giving you a straight up number. Yeah, so let's raid Spherephoria. I really thank you all for watching, and remember, a week from today, I'm going to launch the second checkpoint of Skeleseller. So if you've been watching all this game dev and you've been like, oh man, I really want to play, and when's he going to release it? A week from today. So hope to see you then. Thank you all for watching this. Hope you have a great weekend, and take care. See ya.